Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you Friday, November the 12th. The year is 2021. Let's talk trading. It's time for the weekly wrap up. As always, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. So, we put up the weekly chart for the pound and the rest of the pairs in the dashboard here. All the gaps filled. We're 53 pips below the weekly open, 68 pips off the low, and 186 off the high. So you can see here we went in, took out the pivot, took out the previous week's midpoint, and then reversed hard. Talking about that hard reversal, we came out of the opening range for the week, out of the opening range for the year. And you can see today that we've bounced 68 pips off of that bottom, that weekly bottom. So any green rats using the weekly rat zone, they got a lot of green cheese. For the month, though, you can see once again 221 pips below the yearly open and 262 below the monthly open. The inside bars, we broke out of the monthly inside bar and the weekly inside bar on Wednesday, stayed below it yesterday, and today we're still below it so far. Still have a couple hours. I don't know if they'll close above the 134.33 mark or not. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, how it all plays out. And for the inside bar, you can see there was some sporadic inside bar trades happening across the different pairs. On the day, the range of the pound is only 72 pips, only two pairs over 100. And you can see we took out the pivot. It's like it was definitely an up day for the pound after all of the downs for the past couple of days. Red rats can now start thinking about feasting. Range is definitely large enough. Took out the pivot. We were down around the weekly S1 support. Now, for those traders who like to swing trade, you might want to look at the pivots on the weekly. And if you look at the price action around these S1 and R1 pivots on the weekly, you can see there's usually a lot of movement around those areas, because once that price gets there, it's pretty well has expanded, and sometimes it'll go all the way down to S2, but not that frequent on the weekly. So it's just something you might want to put on your chart. It's the weekly pivots. And you can use TRO HL5 to do that, even though this one I'm using the SDK indicator that I modified. But with the this is showing the missed pivots. We had a missed pivot yesterday at 34.56, so that needs to get taken out. So 2 missed pivots so far in November, the first 2 weeks of November. Here we go, in and out of that lower wick zone, some nice trading there. See, it dipped back in, gave another opportunity. This spike here was a news, came out, which actually I think that was this one, because if you think about it, almost any financial news from the dollar, if it's anywhere truthful, has to be bad. So bad news spiked the price up, they brought it back down, and here we go back up again. So you have to wonder, they're probably clearing out. And if you look right here, there's that return bar that needed to get taken out, and it just about got taken out. And you can see here we had some nice return bars here that needed to be taken out, and they have been taken out. So see if we can get this level taken out, which is that open 26 at 34.26, and this high was 34, almost 25, so within a pip. Now the ranges definitely tell a story this week. We're looking at the daily so far. You can see we had a big day 2 days ago on the range. But if we switch to the week, you can see this week was 254, which was a 75 percentile. Last week was 274, 83 percentile. So a couple of big weeks in a row. After a couple of small weeks. So we'll see what happens next week. High minus previous high, didn't make it past it. Previous low minus low, 71. So that weekly breakout of that wick zone or previous week's low, you can see that definitely paid off nicely. So when you reach these levels, when you're trading, you can plot these levels out ahead of time. You can, I think I shared with the NBSR alert, so you could write those levels in, or you can have it on your screen, HL5. Just depends on how you're trading and how you like to have your chart set up. Some people like to see the lines, other people like to see gauges, other people like to just be alerted. But these are things you can plan out in advance. So you might say, hey, if it gets near the previous week's low or the previous month's low, let me put a line there. Let me set an alert. So I know I'm going to want to take that breakout the first time it hits it or second time. And then maybe if it spends some time down there, then I'm going to want to play the crossover coming back the other way. And there's many ways you can do it. You just have to figure out which one works for you, if any of those work for you. 3LZZ, we talked about this indicator yesterday with Walmart. Now, there's one thing about it. You see a 3-ball on the bottom. Now you see a 3-ball here. For those of you who, once again, want the big pips, you want to do a swing trade or something, do you have what it takes to wait for that 3-ball to get put? Or maybe a possible 2-ball. A lot of times playing 3-2 works out. Because you can see here, if you went 3-1, but then it came all the way back. That's 30 pip move from here to here. So you possibly could have been up 60 pips. Are you willing to give back 50% or more to test to see if you could get it to this level? But it just depends on your time horizon. A lot of us trade session to session, meaning we just trade one session, then we're done, then we let the other sessions go by, and then we pick up our session. So, for example, Walmart and I, we usually get in about an hour or two before the New York session opens. And that's when we start our trading. And then we'll trade till about when London closes or New York lunchtime, because that's when the volatility drops off. So we want to trade during those really active periods as opposed to during the non-active periods because of the way we like to trade. But some people, they might want to plan out trades on a much longer term. And it's what works for you. And you can see here on the hourly range, we had a 41 3 hours ago, 96 percentile. Popped up, came back. And that was very interesting. I didn't trade today, to tell you the truth. Doing other things at the time. But there was definitely some nice moves to be had. As you can see here, price put in a bottom, shot up during the news and then came all the way back down. As you can see, there's some pretty big bars here. And this, in fact, on H1, or no, I think it was M30. I forgot I have the buttons on this one. But this bar here, I looked at that and said, that looks like a return bar. And sure enough, price came off. It almost came back to that open. A lot of times Walmart says he likes to go for the midpoint, just depending on how price is going. But I would have been shooting for somewhere down here. And it's obvious once price got above this area, if you look left, you can see all those candle tops and bottoms right here. And price crossed above and kept going. So when we talk about looking left and you see, it's like if you see more wicks to the bottom than bodies at a particular point here. So let's just say right about here. As you can see, there's a bottom, then you got 4 wicks. And everything's above that area. So you see here, price cut through it here, came back, launched through it, came back, and then it's coming back up. So those were kind of clues, looking left. And a lot of people say, well, what do you mean look left? What are you looking at? What are you looking for? How are you analyzing it? I hope that I just answered those questions for you. And I'm not sure why this is on the pound yen, but it was. And this is just the TRO dynamic fib SR indicator. Once again, set to mimic the 3-level ZZ. So these are 34 period. It's set for 34 period. Right here, I period's 34. And what usually happens, it'll put in a level. In this case, it's putting in dynamic support. And what this price do, it usually will come back at least and hit this area, which is a 23% retrace. So, and then for here, when it puts in a high, it'll usually come in and put in a 23% retrace. And this is on the daily. And let's just shift it down to M30. It's been trading off of M30 a lot lately, but you can see here 1, 2, 3 pushes and then up. Then it was pushing, but even here it went up here, almost hit it, came down here, didn't hit it because that would have been up here. You can see that's not a dot, but you can see how you can make trades even if it doesn't hit it. There's still pips to be put into your pocket. So most recently, you can see it put in this low, and it did finally take out this level between here and here. And then it put in a new dynamic resistance. So fellow traders, that wraps up the week. I hope it wrapped up properly for you. Putting those green pips in your bank. Hope you have a fun and safe weekend. And as always, when you're sitting down at your trading terminal, always remember, never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.